that moves us to our action agenda. First up is action is necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session.
Make a motion to approve selected employment items, Exhibit A.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0. That takes us to number 13 on the agenda, the approval of the Lexington County easement for the corridor improvement on Columbia Avenue. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Lexington County easement for the corridor improvement on Columbia Avenue.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0.
We do have a presentation for the privilege of the board and the community.
Oh, sorry.
But so I will turn it over to Dr. Gary, just so we can have discussion on record and questions regarding the.
Mr. Knotts is going to introduce our guest today.
Well, at least that takes off the pressure.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Ross, and members of the board. I would like to present Barry Steele and with Mead and Hunt and Joey McIntyre with South Carolina Department of Transportation.
Thank you guys for having us. Yeah, that takes a lot of pressure off. We thought we were just going to get hammered with questions, but that's good news. So just if you want to get a brief background, I'm going to let Barry speak briefly on the history, and then if you guys have questions, we'll take those and try to answer those as quickly as possible.
Yeah, okay, just hit that one. Okay. Don't have a pointer, I don't know if that works, but we'll kind of go through this real quickly. The project has been around since 2015. Basically, it's had 34 different alternatives that have been looked through. Every stone has been unturned. And basically that's working with the local leaders down here, obviously the schools and whatnot. What the project was is improvements along 48, which ran all the way to 76 to 26, putting an interchange there. One of the issues we found is you really can't do much where it ties into 76 with the railroad there and all that stuff. So that's when it came in what we call New Road 1 and 2, which is basically what you see parallel running to the western property line of the school, which is up here, if I can get the pointer to work right. Oop, no, we'll forget about that. But basically on there, and also the road that extends out to roughly behind Publix now. It ties into Amex Ferry. And that was done just to kind of get around the 76 portion. The project took a hiatus for about 3 years because of the design build of I-26, basically where they took the interchange that we had designed that was part of that project and moved it to part of that. So that's why you kind of see the time frame here. I'd be remiss if I didn't say I really appreciate the working with the school district, Mr. Knotts, Mr. Wiseman, when he was here before, the Principal Davis, and really tying into the impacts that we have around your school, which you see along the western corridor, and obviously behind and in front. And we'll go to here just kind of like this is actually a plan sheet that you see. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, it was really wonderful working with y'all's engineer, Mr. Jackson. He's been great to work with, and really making sure that we listen to what y'all's needs are, through the school year to minimize those impacts. And I'll kind of go through that a little bit. One of the things you see here is really what's happening on the back entrance of Chapin High School, Stonewall Road. And if I can get this, let's see the point on if it. In this area here, that's what Mr. Jackson is doing. You'll have a retention pond that basically we're working with him, going to put that into the contract. He will move that outside this area, and then we'll rebuild this road for your entrance. So you'll have a new entrance coming back here, which will tie into to a roundabout that we've got in this area. One of the things that came up with through Mr. Wiseman and also Mr. Knott is just to put this in perspective, and hopefully y'all can see this. I don't know if you can or not, but here's your football stadium. Just to put that in perspective, we'll go back to showing where this is. That's basically here. I'm just talking about this area right here. One of the things that brought their attention is obviously, want to make sure we're not doing anything to prohibit the, football season coming in. I'll be honest with you, I used to play for the Chapin Eagles, so, I don't want to stop that either, a long time ago. But, so what we're doing there is working with y'all to basically, and your engineer, I'll move forward real quickly, to put it under a contract to move this retention pond back. We'll go in and build this section. That's one of the first things that we're going to do as part of the project. Hopefully we'll be letting it, which means getting it to construction first of next year. So what we'll be looking is working with the high school to shut down this entrance roughly about April 15th of next year, with the end in mind of having this open to traffic before the start of the school year, so July 30th. So we make sure that, the school buses and this new entrance too will be, it has been designed to allow for school buses to come in. So to make sure that we got that ready for y'all when the school season starts up and football season starts up. The other one, this is the frontage. You'll basically see this is the building you've got here. Roughly what you'll see is we're coming about 15 feet closer to you with that one lane that's through there. I know it's tough for y'all, but this is the what I'll call the upper bus parking lot, and this is your lower level here. And basically what's happening is that one of the big things is there's going to be some undergrounding of utilities through here in this area up in the bus parking lot. So one of the things we're going to do there is we're not allowing the contractor to start work on those undergrounding of utilities until after the first day after school season's over next year, and they have until July 30th of that same school year to be done before the end, so that you'll have the ability to get your school buses in and out of there, and that work will all be done. But that's the biggest impact here is the undergrounding of utilities, sewer, and water coming through here. But those are the accommodations we're working with y'all staff to make sure that that happen, and that's what's in the easement to make sure that we get that done. Really, basically, it's just a widening it through here. You should have a lot better entry as far as your people coming in and out with designated left turns and whatnot. One of the things that will be a little different, we're not showing it here, but the far of your upper bus parking lot, you have two driveways right now. One on the western property line up here, and then you got one here. This won't be closed to just right in, right out. You won't be able to take buses to the left out of here because of a left turn that comes in here. Just make sure it's safe too. You don't want to take buses across 5 lanes of traffic now. But we have done a study here and ran turning templates, and buses can come and use that existing one on the far end. So it should be able to still be usable, whatnot. And we'll just make sure we get it ready for y'all for the new school year. But that's really kind of a quick rundown of what we're doing and what y'all saw. So we really appreciate, again, your staff and everything. We've been working forward to coordinate these things and look forward to getting it done for y'all in that time frame.
Thank you. Oh, we have a question.
Quick question for you regarding the timeline. How do you feel about that have you built in contingency days? You're talking April 15th to July 30th. Obviously, there's going to be rain, there's going to be weather. Do you feel good about you've allowed sufficient contingency for those types of?
We feel good as about anything we can control. So that's an easy way to kind of cover ourselves a little bit. But we do think that basically is doable. One of the things I would just remiss not to say, it may not be perfect as far as, great pavement and all that stuff, or get you the in and out, especially on that backside access. But it will make sure that it's passable. It could be to where it's a gravel service to get you back and forth, but we will make sure that you get your the buses in and out to the football games, because we know that's a big ticket item for y'all. So we will have something for you, and it will be safe. It will be passable. Hopefully, it's paved and is where it needs to be. But we do have contingencies in there to make sure that we're working on that. One of the big things is working with Richard Jackson's been fantastic about getting that pond out of the way quickly and putting that under one contract. So we have one contractor that's doing that. We don't have competing entities. So we think that's going to be a big help. But we're going to do everything we can to make it. As far as the upper parking lot, we do think there's plenty of time to get that done and get it all the way across. But the big thing we are is getting it across for bus traffic is our main thing that we're going to do there. So we feel good.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank y'all so much. And we already approved that before the presentation, so that moves us to 14 on the action agenda, approval of a second and final reason on proposed revisions to board policy IC school year.
Make a motion to approve the second and final reading of proposed revisions to board policy IC, school year, as shown in Exhibit I.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0.
Make a motion to approve the second and final reading of proposed revisions to board policy BE, school board meetings, shown in Exhibit J.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0.
Make a motion to approve the second and final reading of new board policy BEA, live streaming of board meetings, shown in Exhibit K.
Second.
I do have a question about this one.
Okay.
We got an email, one of their standard emails from SCSBA today, and it said, I believe November 5th was the deadline. So is that when we'll start this?
It's my understanding we have to pass it before November 5th, and we start this in January, but I'll let Amanda speak
November
to that.
5th is the deadline to get it to the State Department for approval. And so the policy would go into, assuming approval by the State Department, it would go into effect January 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, and the motion carries 7-0.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of proposed revisions to board policy GCLE, unencumbered time, shown in Exhibit L.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0.
Make a motion to approve the minority business enterprise utilization plan, shown in Exhibit M.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0.
Make a motion to approve the solicitation of A&E services for middle school co-curricular and extracurricular facility renovations, shown in Exhibit N.
Second.
Madam Chair, I move that we defer the action until after we've done a survey of middle school and rising fifth grade students on what they would like.
Second.
And just to expand on that, basically, we've reached out to the community. I think we talked about it last meeting, just to kind of get a better idea of what the students would like, what they would enjoy, so we can take full access of our property and, utilize funds, properly for that.
Ms. Huddle?
I agree, and I don't know how we can get A&E services for something that hasn't been described. So normally when we're approving a contract or a solicitation, we know what we're asking for. This could be anything from gaga pits to entire football fields. So, I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Dr. Ross?
Thank you for the opportunity to explain the motion from the administrative standpoint. If you look at Exhibit N, it includes a survey that would be helped, that the A&E services would help the administration with. When we look at there was a request to do the survey, and I guess the question is, who does the survey? And we would easily say, well, the administration, but that is somebody. Somebody has to do that survey. Someone has to collect that data. And there is no direction on who collects it and what information we put on there. What we're asking the board to do is to commit to studying the feasibility of improving these fields. Your commitment through a passage of these services will bring an expert on the ground who could help us examine what's feasible and then what do we put in the survey. I think one of the things is when we start going with students, they don't understand our board timelines. We start asking them questions, they want to see answers. A lot of times we do studies and they go nowhere. So we're not committing to do the work, but we are committing, we're asking the board to commit to make this a priority. Our staff and administrative time is a very finite resource. And if we're going to take the time to deliver a survey, we would like the commitment to have the experts on the ground to even see what's feasible. So that's the explanation of the motion, of the original motion.
Ms. Snipes, are you awake? Are you daydreaming over there? You thinking in the middle of thought? I do like getting, you know me, I always like getting input from those who are going to be affected by it. Maybe this SICs at the school could give some feedback.
That's where my brain was. That's where I was trying to, I was trying to get to what's the base of people that could give us feedback and thinking about how we've done it in the past for other things.
Well, and I know that if you talk to middle schoolers, you know, you'll get a hodgepodge if you're getting it just from middle schools. But if the parents talk to the kids and they talk to the community members, there are certain things that, as an old PE teacher, there are certain things that are basic that can be used for a multitude of reasons in a multitude of ways. It's like a field. You can use it for all kinds of sports, all kinds of activities, ultimate frisbee, you know, soccer, whatever it might be. But I do like the idea of getting some feedback from the SIC, and it gives them some parental involvement with these decisions too. But thank you.
Yeah. I guess my advice would be to proceed as well on the motion. I mean, I appreciate the idea of asking and surveying students, but there is no way I would defer action based on what fifth graders would say. Professional organizations and contractors, they know what schools need. They're the professionals on the ground. Fifth graders, I mean, I appreciate their opinions and getting their advice, but I would not build a infrastructure based on what their desires would be. We'd have pizza and ice cream lines. We'd have, I mean, and it's going to change. I mean, you're asking fifth graders versus what about the existing middle school students here? I agree with Mr. Satterfield. Generally speaking, the concepts are going to be the same. Professional organizations work with school districts all throughout the country. They know what schools need, what the appetite of the communities are for those needs, and I think they will give us a better viewpoint. We can always amend and adjust as we go, depending on if, you know, what the student surveys say, but I think from a professional point of view, we need to move forward.
So, Dr. Ross, would the A&E study effectively give us a menu to present to the SICs, the students, the parents, whoever it is, rather than it being just a free-for-all, everybody suggests whatever they want? Is that the idea?
I think what we find with a study is we want to ask what's in the realm of what we can deliver. And so having an expert on the ground, one thing I think is important to clarify, the A&E is of existing facilities. So you know exactly what we're looking at. The question is, what can we put in that to be useful? I will say, though, and I want to make sure to Trustee Bainham's point, we are already engaging in surveys. I think we're required under Title IX, and I'm looking at Mr. Puckett every so often, to do a survey of students. So I don't want to confuse the survey that we're doing for Title IX, which is 5th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade. And we're required to do that to ensure that we've considered extracurricular options for our students. So we'll have that data as well. But when we look at co-curricular, you're really looking at those programs from recess to clubs and organizations. So I think it's important that we we know that there's already a survey that's going to be taking place 5th, 7th, and 9th.
Would there be any cost associated with this, the A&E services?
There would be costs associated with
Okay.
it, yes.
And we don't know what that costs yet.
That would have to be brought back to this body for approval, but this would allow us to, what we're doing is not committing to, you're not even committing to the study. You're committing to us soliciting to bring that back for you. So this body would have to approve us to move forward once we have the cost of that.
So if this motion was to pass, right now, we're committing to $0, just for clarification, and then y'all have to bring that back, and then we decide if we want to move forward.
Right.
Because that's a concern that I have as well, and I'll take ownership of, and maybe some other board members had the same concern, which might be why we're asking about the survey, is that initially, I think, and I've heard that from a few people in the community after they saw the public agenda, that they thought there was going to be more discussion about this before, in community input, before we started moving forward. And when I thought about the survey, I didn't think about it to comment on what Mr. Scully's comment about, basing it off of fifth graders' opinion, but more so, I felt like we had conversations about sort of what's popular in the realm of recess and that sort of thing at that age group. And I thought it was more about finding out kind of what those interests were. And I get that the services will tell us sort of what we can do, but I also thought it would be good for us to go in with some thoughts on some things that we would like to see. And that would come from student feedback. And so maybe we don't see all of it at all the schools, because maybe all the schools can't accommodate it. But anyway, just wanted to share that, and then I saw Ms. Huddle had her hand up.
I mean, I guess I have a question about the scope. The one page that we were given says renovate middle and intermediate school athletic facilities to meet the physical health needs of 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. And so when I see renovate, I don't think of really new. When you renovate your kitchen, you fix the kitchen within its existing space. You don't build a new kitchen. So is the RFP simply going to say that, and then it's up to the people that respond to come back with, I'm confused.
I think to clarify, I think it's what comes first. Do you bring an expert on the ground to help us? Because none of us are like the engineers up here. Do you bring an expert on the ground to see this is what's feasible? Help us develop a survey, an option that we can take care of our existing facilities. Or do we take a shot at it, and then we survey community members and SICs, but once we get that data, what do we do with it? We still need to turn it over to some expert to say this is actually plausible. The administration really doesn't have time for that option, to just gather a bunch of data and we still have to turn it over to someone. What I like to do is gather it in conjunction. So tonight's vote on the initial motion does not obligate you to pay a dime. All it does is say that we can put out the solicitation and see who is interested in helping us engage in this work. We would have to bring back those who are interested. We may not get anything. But for us, we're still doing a lot of mitigations on the referendum, and some HVAC issues is our number one, leaks in HVAC. That's what the administration is working on. Before we take operations and move into a survey, we would like help for that. And so bringing back on the original motion is to bring us a group who can help us with this, who can help us put this together to come up with something feasible. Remember, we're trying to hit everything from lunch to sports to extracurriculars. It may be our existing fields. I kind of disagree. When you make a renovation, it is new. It is, you renovate a kitchen, it's going to be different. It may be the same footprint, but it will be new. And what that new looks like, I remind you of what we're looking at Chapin Intermediate School. We have some, if you walk their area, their pipes, their different lines that are out there, we don't know if we should be playing out there anyway. So I'd like to have an engineer to tell us, or an architectural firm to tell us, we see what you're working with. We are willing to help you put this package together. But we would have to bring that back to this body for approval.
So can I just, I guess what I'm asking is what's in this document going to be the scope that's in the RFP? Or is the RFP going to have more than what's in here?
We can flush it out a little bit more. Right now, we refrain from using RFP or RFQ. It's really, I want to give Heather and her team and Dr. Gary some opportunities under solicitation. But the solicitation would include the notion of that survey, looking at the co-curricular and extracurricular space of our existing property. So that could include, to your point, Ms. Huddle, it could include a new field, but it definitely includes the current play spaces that the students have. Right now, with your bus loops, and most of our kids are playing in parking lots and bus loops. So I would just like assistance on that. The solicitation will go out, and we would bring back the responses. This board would then have to approve moving forward on those A&E services before any of those dollars are spent.
Mr. Bainum?
So just to be clear, I definitely don't want to be difficult. I just was sharing some ideas. You know, we had a good discussion last meeting. I did a little Facebook post geared towards parents, asking their students, give them, a handful of ideas. Tetherball, Gaga ball, all the different little kind of lesser expensive options that we may be able to do on a, express lane type pathway to get these kids something before they graduate high school. And so, we love AI in this district. Let's spit out a document, let the teachers kind of hand it out. It's got 5 or 6 options. I mean, it doesn't have to be incredibly difficult or scientific, and y'all can just take that under advisement. And we can kind of have a general direction before we spend a whole lot of money. That's all. So.
Ms. Nuns?
Yes.
Yeah, I do like getting feedback from other folks. One thing to discuss, and you sort of touched on it, Dr. Ross, is that, or not to discuss, but to consider, is that every school is going to be different. If you go to like Chapin Intermediate, I've ridden my bike going to Crooked Creek past them during recess, and they're packed in there like sardines. I mean, they really have a very limited amount of space. So that may dictate, Mr. Bainum, the type of activities they can actually put in there. They might have 4 Gaga pits, where another school may not have that many, just because of the access to the space. You don't want kids, just for security and safety, you don't want them in parking lots, and you don't want them on the bus loop and those sort of things. I mean, we utilize that space because of limitations. I know that when we were talking about with Lake Murray Elementary School and building the additional space, and they don't hardly have any space as it is, schools like that, a lot of their activities are going to be dictated by the size of their campus or the accessibility to those spaces. But anyway.
All right, thank y'all. So we have an amendment to the original motion, which is to defer this pending additional feedback from students. All those in favor of the amended motion? All right. All those opposed? And the amended motion carries 4-3. And then we have to go back to the original motion.
No,
Nope.
No, since you moved to defer,
Okay, I wasn't sure.
that's a
I
superseding
said it
motion.
hesitantly as I was not sure, so thank you.
I'm the old timer here.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, that moves us to the last item on the action agenda, which is board requests. I feel like for context, let me just say that this is, has historically not been on the agenda, but likely will be moving forward if we have, just so the public understands, if we get a request of, if we get an email requesting information from the district office that is not readily available, but may take up a considerable amount of time, it'll come before the board for us to determine if, as a board, we would like to request this information. So, because this is our first one and we're walking through it, I'm gonna assume that we need a motion, but then also maybe these people each had the opportunity to explain what it is that they're asking for.
I make a motion to consider amendments to board policy BEDGA, board records shown in Exhibit O.
Point of clarification.
Yep.
We're not amending the
We're not
policy,
amending it.
are we?
We're just looking to hear, Doctor, we would be considering the request brought forth from Trustee Herring.
Make a motion, sorry, amend the motion to withdraw the first, make a new motion to consider the request of Dr. Herring and Ms. Huddle to board records, board policy BEDGA.
that's it.
Board. Okay.
Not to the boss.
I'll move to divide the question.
Second.
I'll second that.
Into
Yes.
the request for Mr. Herring, Dr. Herring, and the request for Ms. Huddle.
I second.
All right, all those in favor of the amendment? All right, the motion carries 7-0. Mr. Herring, do you want to explain your
Sure,
request?
for anyone who doesn't have the copies of the board packet. I received some communication from a community member about the possibility of parent-paid childcare in any of our facilities that may have the space for that. And it seemed like a worthwhile, at least ask to find out with the administration if something like this is even possible, what would be the costs of it, what would be the benefits. The community member was citing teacher recruitment and retention as one possible benefit of that. If a teacher can bring their underage child or pre-5-year-old child to the same school that they are in, we may very well recruit teachers if they've got that available childcare. It would not be something that would be supported financially by the district. It would be parent paid, but that was the topic of discussion. So.
And then Dr. Ross, if you could explain to us the staff, for lack of a better, I don't want to use the word inconvenience, but toll maybe that this would take and why this needs to be approved at this level. I think that would also be helpful.
Yes, this would require a study. Board records indicates that we provide what we have on record. We do not have this information on record, so just like the last motion, it will require the administration to create new information. And we can certainly do that study. I think the goal would be looking at what available space that we have that would actually meet the DHEC regulations. And I'm looking over to the team. I know that when it goes from 0 to 5, there are increased regulatory responsibilities than when you have +5. So we may have some rooms that are available, but they do not meet the DHEC and OSF responsibilities for a 0 to 5 site. So we would just need to bring in some additional, typically, and I think the only place I've seen it was at Dutch Fork High School where they had a whole wing, but that wing had to be kind of fully upgraded to, I know the #1 regulatory agency is DSS, but I also know that DHEC also has to sign off on it. So that's why we were bringing it to this body. If that's the request of the board, we would go about studying it, but I'm not aware of any standalone spaces that would meet that requirement right now.
Do y'all want to have a daycare?
we will stand to the will of the board. However, we don't have the ability, the funding or the staffing to meet that requirement. Our number one is trying to get the NPS reports of the from kindergarten to 12th grade in adult ed. The regulatory responsibilities for, and I understand it's a great recruiting tool for teachers, but that's a lot of regulatory responsibilities. And I think, and I'm looking at my team if I'm wrong, we would have to create some spaces because we don't have any standalone spaces that are ready now.
I did, but it was just kind of a general, in your email, I'm not sure if you said it or not, but this would just be for employees, correct? For childcare for employees, children?
I didn't specify, but I don't think that it would necessarily have to be. I think it could also be open up to the public, but with preferences given to teachers first, or teachers and staff, I should say.
I personally think it's worth studying. I think of teachers a lot like nurses in terms of how hard it is to find and keep good people. It's a very high demand occupation. And I know my daughter lives in Spartanburg, and Spartanburg Regional Hospital has on-site daycare, and every nurse wants to work there, every doctor wants to work there, every staff wants to work there. I think it's worth looking at and maybe just, maybe starting with our staff. Would they even be interested in finding out what an interest level would be? Again, that's another survey, but because if people aren't interested in it, then it doesn't matter. But if you had a really high interest level, then you could take the next step and say, okay, what would it take in terms of DHEC and DSS and all that?
Well, and if we're going to do that, then does the staff interest level need to come before anything else? But I also don't want to miss the part of when I asked, do we want to have a daycare? I said it that way, but I really was trying to figure out, do we have the feasibility? And I think that there was a loaded response there in terms of the resources and all the other things that have to go into it, and where's the funding gonna come from?
I think about this in the previous action. I asked to take care of our existing facilities, and that we're not moving forward on our existing facilities. So I think looking at new high regulatory facilities would be tough to meet financially. One of the things the staff talked about, though, to Dr. Herron's point, is could we partner with existing daycares that are already set up? And if there was a way that the board would approve funding for our teachers to have a partnership at existing places, I think we could meet that need of being recruiting. But we have we're still working over 11,137 incidents of facility needs that we need to address currently. So I think, we can do the survey, but if you look at how many surveys we put out, the question is, what are you going to do with it? And if we have no feasibility to even to move forward with it, I think maybe our time could be better spent seeing, can we set up some partnerships with some local daycares? That's my thoughts.
A motion on the floor. Oh.
Yeah, and Dr. Ross, I was kind of going along that same thought process with perhaps, we're already contemplating MOUs with other organizations that we could perhaps pursue MOUs with existing facilities. I think if we start utilizing our school facilities or our district facilities, then we're going to be in conflict with our district use policy that, where we're charging fee schedules for organizations to use our existing facilities as it is. And then when you think about the security presentation earlier tonight, how does that factor into, now you've got additional security needs, additional active shooter considerations and so forth. It's a very interesting topic, but I think it's definitely needs more research and contemplation.
All right. We have a motion on the floor.
Ms. Snipes, I know you never look my way because
Well-
you dread calling on me. That's okay. I've been through that process. I'll just share with you. I was the facilities guy at Dutch Fork High School when we put in the daycare. I will share with Dr. Ross that just the mere mention, we had a lot of folks already signing up, lining up. You know, daycare is terribly expensive and terribly inconvenient for a lot of teachers. I'm guessing it would probably be best housed at a high school because of the nature of the buildings. And you're right, Dr. Ross, you got to go through DHEC, and they've got these various, like OSF, you got these various facilities, folks, that you have to get approval for. It was an excellent recruiting tool for us, but we had teachers that were next door at the middle school and even some at the elementary school that were there. There are certain other conditions, such as the size of the space and the number of children that you can have. And then you have to have an outdoor space if you have those that can move around. I think it's worth looking into, because I think it's kind of like when we talked about the housing, some sort of recruitment tool. I think it's at least worth the discussion and looking into to see if it's something that's feasible for our teachers and our staff. I don't think, I know that Scott brought up about the idea of private. I'm telling you, it would probably fill up with our own staff.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of Dr. Herron's request to have the administration pull information for the possibility of providing childcare? All opposed? And the motion carries 6-1. All right, that takes us to Mrs. Huddle's request.
Okay, so at our last board meeting, we had a request to approve a stipend for a new position that was being paid for by an athletic booster club. And I didn't even realize that was a thing. So it was really interesting to me, and as a board member, I'm very curious to know, like, how prevalent these are, how much they are. Are they more at one school than another? So I sent an email. I'll just read the email so it makes it more clear. Dr. Ross, please provide the board with a list of all employee salary supplements, employee positions, or employee pay enhancements that are paid for by school booster clubs, athletic, band, PTO, et cetera, for the 24-25 and 25-26 school years. And there was a follow-up email. I was not asking for their salary, just the amount of the supplement or the enhancement, whatever it might be called.
So I have a question, Dr. Ross. I don't know, maybe it's Ms. Tucker, but are there caps on, or what kind of rules and regulations are in place for the supplements that are paid by the PTOs and whatnot?
So the PTOs still have to become compliant with the district, so they have to do their financial reporting and become registered with the district. And they fall in line with the athletic supplements right now. So the coaches, there are some regulations, they fall in line with the board-approved supplements. We have not approved any this year, so there aren't any currently in this school year that have been approved, but there were some last year. And so we could go back and look at those, but they are kind of like, when Dr. Ross was talking about the grant supplements, they come in throughout the year. So they're not all at the very beginning of the year. We get them as booster clubs request them. And so they kind of funnel in throughout the year. But
So we approved them last year?
I don't,
They would have been on the board packet as a grant funded in Exhibit A. I think this year, at the last meeting, it was pulled out of Exhibit A to be handled individually.
So it has been being approved, but because it was grant funded, we just didn't realize it was from from a PTO or booster club. Okay. Ms. Huddle, what's your answer?
So there are none right now. Going forward, they would be a separate line item on our Schedule A, and they would not.
I don't want to
Okay.
interrupt you, but
No, that's fine.
going forward, what we're going to do is separate, they would not be on Exhibit A. They would be up for action at each line item like we did the last meeting.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw the motion then, if we're going to be
Because then we would
approving
know
them
going
both. Yes,
forward,
then
which
there's
is-
none now.
Okay. Well, that solved it, so, all right, thank you. The motion has been withdrawn.